Good morning, gorgeous. How are you doing this morning? Welcome to my channel. I'm Dr. Michelle Daff. If it's your very first time here, welcome. I'm so happy that you're here. And if you're returning, thank you for joining me for another video. We're talking about femininity. That is what we talk about on this channel. And this video has been highly requested by you ladies, how to handle conflict in a feminine way. That's the key here. We're doing it in a feminine way, in a way that speaks true to our nature as classy, elegant, feminine women. We know that this world is full of people and situations that may try to rock you, that may try to take you out of your true nature and put you in a situation where you may act out of character. So what do you do in those situations to bring yourself back to the person that you are saying that you are, the person that you are exhibiting on the outside, and the person that God says that you are? So I want you to go ahead and sit back, relax, get something warm and cozy to drink, and let's talk about this. Conflicts are a normal part of life. We all face conflicts in our relationships, in our workplace, with neighbors, with friends, in customer service situations. Things are going to come up because that's part of life. Handling those situations, though, in a feminine way is what makes all of the difference in that interaction and in the outcome of the interaction. When we think about femininity, we think about traits like being gentle, being kind, being receptive, being open, being beautiful on the inside and out. And that doesn't go away just because you're upset or just because someone is upset with you. So we're going to talk about some things to kind of look out for as a collective. And then we'll talk about specific situations and give you some tips on what you can do in those situations. This video is going to be long because I do have a lot to say, but it's not everything I'm going to say here. I just don't have the time to do that. So if there's something specific that you really want me to talk about, please leave me a comment and I will do that. The first thing to remember is that you want to handle your life with grace, with elegance, and with class. And this is something that you are going to remember whenever you are interacting with anyone. You want to be consistent. You don't want to be performing as a feminine woman if that's not who you really are in all of your interactions. It takes practice and it takes patience with yourself. It will not happen overnight, but the more you practice it, the more it's going to become second nature. You also need to remember that you cannot control other people. When people say things that are rude or hurtful to you, when situations happen that are outside of your control, things that life just brings about and can be very frustrating, you have to remember that you cannot immediately change a person's mind or fix something that cannot be fixed. And that has to be something that you are able to ground yourself with coming into any conversation. Something that you must watch out for when you are encountering any kind of conflict are triggers, your personal emotional triggers. These are things that are stemming from something bigger, something outside of the situation you're currently in. Someone may say something to you in a conversation like, you know what, you never listen. And that may be a very flyby comment to some people, but if you were in a relationship with a guy who broke up with you, who cheated on you, and then told you it's because you never listen, then when someone says that to you at work, you get triggered, right? Because everything goes back to that moment where you were hurt. And more of an intense reaction is displayed than is necessary. So you want to watch out for triggers. And the only way you're going to know what really triggers you is for you to have self-awareness, for you to be honest with yourself and know that there are certain things people say or do that get you a little bit more upset than you probably really should be getting. And you'll know that because your reaction will be almost like alarming or surprising to the other person. It won't match, and you can feel it. Femininity is about feeling. You can feel when you are becoming angry or just becoming like overly angry, right? I really want you to watch my series, Fiercely Feminine, because that is a series I don't feel like enough of you have watched or listened to on the podcast. But that series talks about the underlying reasons for some of your behaviors. And this goes back to your childhood. It goes back to feelings of abandonment and rejection. These core feelings are what's really underneath a lot of your reactions. And once you're able to identify why you have these feelings and get assistance with those feelings, you won't be triggered nearly as much or even at all. So please watch Fiercely Feminine and, allow that to really settle in your spirit so that you can overcome these things. Aside from being triggered, one of the most important things that you can do whenever you're in the situation where you weren't expecting for someone to say something to you, or you are going into a conflict, is remembering to breathe. Deep breaths. Breaths that come from your stomach, inhaling deeply and exhaling out. This is something that you should practice even with the smallest things. You're going to a machine at the gym and someone's already on the treadmill and you were just about to get on it and someone's on it. Deep breath and breathe out from your stomach, from your belly. And this is going to help your brain to be able to relax and calm down. But this is really important for you to exercise on a regular so that when you need it in a confrontation or a conflict, it's an immediate reaction from you. You can reset and get into that conversation in a civil way. And when it comes to your emotions and breathing, you as a feminine woman are hopefully in touch with your feelings and in touch with your body. You can feel yourself when you're starting to get too upset. Your belly starts to rumble. Some of you may get a stomach ache. You may feel anxiety. There is a physical response to being triggered, and that is when you know it's time to take a belly breath. Take a breath first before doing anything. Something we don't pay enough attention to is the fact that when we are triggered, when we are in conflicts or angry, that is affecting our health. A lot of times we're really focused on the situation, but we're not realizing that these little things are causing us to become more stressed, can cause flare-ups in your body. People have had heart attacks because of a conflict. There are physical manifestations of that anger that are long lasting if you're not able to realize it's happening and stop it. You don't want to get sick because you are in so many conflicts. Another important thing to remember, and we are going to talk about specific things. We're going to touch on relationships. We're going to touch on work conflicts, and we're going to touch on customer service. So we are going to touch on these things. I'm giving you some general guidelines for any conflict right now. Something else to remember is open body language. As a feminine woman, you are open. And being open means being willing to listen and being willing to take a neutral stance in any situation. When you are open, it means that you're not coming in with this idea that I am right, I have all the answers, I am the one who, needs the apology, who needs whatever restitution. It's all about me. You're coming into every situation open. This conversation may go in a different direction than you planned. Maybe there's some information you didn't know. And when you're open, you have open body language, which means you don't come into any situation with your arms crossed, with your eyes rolled, with your back to someone while you're talking to them. You're not showing that you are closed off. You are open. So your arms are open, your back is straight, you're leaning back. You could even be smiling. I'm not saying you should, but you could. You're not coming in a threatening, warlike position. Along those same lines of body language is remembering that you're not coming to a fight. You're not going to war. Feminine women do not fight. You're not interested in a fight. You're interested in a solution. So fighting is never an option for you, and it's never on the table. And if someone looks like they're about to fight you or want to fight you, even if it's a verbal fight, you're not going to participate. And that's something you need to know going into the conversation. I also want to mention some things that physically can impact any conflict. Things like caffeine. If you are caffeinated, highly caffeinated, or you are under the influence of alcohol or drugs, then these confrontations can be taken to another level. They can be escalated because caffeine can naturally make you a little bit more willing to be abrasive, or you being a little too hyper can cause you to say things that maybe you weren't prepared to say, or say it in a way that you didn't want to say it in. Same thing for drugs and alcohol, right? So you also want to make sure that if you're coming into any sort of conflict, that you are not highly caffeinated or under the influence of any drugs or alcohol, which I hope you would not be doing that anyway as a feminine woman who loves herself. And the last sort of general tip is to pray. Pray before you go into any conversation. Ask the Lord to be with you, to guard your mouth, to arrest your tongue if he needs to. And the one prayer that you can guarantee will always be answered is to pray for wisdom. In James 1:9, the Lord says that he will give wisdom if you ask for it without reproach. So you can ask God for wisdom for anything and he will give it to you, because God wants you to be wise. He's like, that's an automatic yes, girl, because I need you to be wise about your interactions. Ask God for wisdom and he will tell you when, how, and in what manner to solve any conflict that you're in. You want to make sure you are always in your feminine, that you do not lower yourself for anyone. Some people will try to pick on you because you're feminine, or make fun of you, or say nasty, snarky things to you, or bait you into arguments because of the simple fact that you are feminine, because they just don't like you. And I just did a video on how to deal with your haters. So watch that video if this is something that you experience regularly. But, just know that some people may just try to get you out of your feminine because they want to prove to you that you're not really who you say you are. And so they're going to test it and see if the ratchet, if the ghetto, if the crazy is going to really come out. If this is all just a little act, they'll test you. So be prepared for that and don't fall into the traps of other people. Do not get on other people's level. Do not lower yourself. Do not match their energy. Do not do anything that's going to take you out of who you say you are. A beautiful, classy, and feminine woman. Now let's talk about 3 things that I want you to remember when you're dealing with any conflict. And I made these up, so if you copy these things, just give me credit. Just give me credit and don't steal, please. For those of you who are also content creators, the 3 things that I want you to remember in any conflict are timing, tone, and technique. Timing, tone, and technique for feminine women. Timing means that you are prepared to wait until a better opportunity to address any issue. If you're having a conversation with your husband, you are going to think about when is the best time to approach him. If you know that he has a big presentation, or he's meeting with a client, or he's traveling, you'll wait. You won't do it right when he's watching his sporting event or right when he's about to go out with his friends. You decide to wait until the best time, when he is free, when he is at peace, when he is by himself. You're not calling him out at a party or anywhere in public. Anywhere in public is completely unacceptable and disrespectful to ever enter a conflict with anyone, really. It should always be done in private. That's absolutely necessary to say. But timing is important, especially if you are hoping for a good reaction. Think about other people and don't only have your desires in your mind, whatever you want to get off your chest, whatever problem you just want to hurry up and solve. I remember being a young person and this happening sometimes where I would get a text from my parents saying, when you get home, we need to talk. And I'm like, oh, and the whole day I'm at school and I'm nervous. My stomach is hurting because I know I'm probably in trouble. So if you have an issue with your husband, don't send him a text saying, babe, after work, I want to talk to you. Like, just don't do that. Just wait until the best time and ask God to tell you when the best time is, and he will. And at that time, you take the opportunity to bring up whatever it is you want to bring up. Tone is the second thing to remember. When you are having any sort of conflict or disagreement with anyone, how you speak matters so much. Your tone is probably even more important than what you're actually saying, because that's what people are really listening to. I've seen people have conversations where their face looks so aggressive, but their tone is so calm that it's scary because you're like, oh my goodness, this person is like really serious. The tone being calm as a feminine woman is really what gives you that feminine leverage in any disagreement. When your tone is settled, you're not yelling, you're not talking in a really high-pitched, squeaky, like frustrating voice. You're not talking in such a deep voice where you sound like you are a man. You are speaking in a calm, neutral tone. And this is difficult to do when you're upset, especially if you're having a back and forth and things are being said that are really triggering you. It's difficult to keep your tone consistent, but that will help to neutralize the conversation. If you're trying to get anything done at work or with customer service, your tone is what they're going to pay attention to. That's how they're going to tell if you're just a crazy, angry woman who doesn't deserve anything, or if you're someone who they should be taking more seriously. Maybe you're dressed very casually, but you're very important. They won't know if your tone is intact, and they'll take you seriously. They'll want to help you, and they'll want to solve whatever problem you have. And lastly, the technique. The technique is really important with any conversation, how you approach the conversation in terms of how you stand, how you sit, how you move. That's how people determine whether or not this conflict is something that can be resolved, or if you just need to be dismissed, if they just need to break up with you because you are disrespectful. When he's talking, your arms are crossed, you're rolling your eyes, you're going, these little nuances that we do when we're in conflicts that really make a person just want to stop, just want to say, forget about you. So timing, tone, and technique are things that I want you to keep in mind when you're having any conflict and you want to remain in your feminine. Let's talk a little bit about relationships. This can be an entire video all by itself, and it probably should be, but I want to talk a little bit about this. When you're dating someone and you are this beautiful feminine woman that he's like in love with and so happy that he met because you're so rare, and then you get into an argument and the real you comes out. The person he never thought he was going to see comes out. This can be so alarming to a man that it can make him completely shut down and want to reevaluate whether or not he wants to be with you. There are certain things that men take very seriously, and that is respect. Men want to be respected by their woman. And in arguments and confrontations is where women tend to end up being very disrespectful. That's where it usually comes out. And they see, oh, okay, this is how you really see me. They're watching that interaction. So when you're having a conversation with your spouse or with your boyfriend, fiance, it's important for you to go into that conversation knowing what you want. What is the outcome that you want? Do not enter any conflict without knowing what you want, because then it just becomes an argument. Do you want him to apologize? Do you want him to do something a little differently? Do you want him to just understand? What is it that you're looking for from him? And what will that look like? What does it look like coming from him? You know, some men have a certain way of apologizing. Men are not like us. They are different, and that is good. We are not the same. We have different ways of behaving. And you also need to know how men are. You have to learn men, understand men. That is part of being a feminine woman. A true feminine woman knows men and understands men. So when you understand men, you will be able to realize when he does understand something, when he is apologizing in his own way, so that you're not expecting something the way you want it. And if you don't get it the way you want it, then you're going to stay mad. So go in knowing what you want. Also, when you're having a conversation with your man as a feminine woman, do not come with an entire PowerPoint presentation. You're not coming to him with an entire list of problems that you have for him, of all the ways that he is not measuring up as a man. You're coming with one issue, and just one. And even if it starts to remind you of other things as you're talking, stick to the one issue, because his mind is already stressed because you're bringing him a problem. You're telling him he is lacking in a certain way. That is threatening for a man. And from the woman that he loves, that doesn't feel good. So he's already on the defensive. What you can do to just sort of soften up and sweeten up that interaction is coming to him in a good time, in a peaceful way, and with one issue. Your tone is going to be so important. Speaking in a calm tone, looking him in the eye, not looking at him with aggression or hate, but looking at him with love, remembering the position he has in your life as your man, a very important position, and interacting with him in that way. You can do certain things to make the interaction a little bit smoother, depending on, your style. You can sit next to him instead of being in front of him, because that's like a battle stance, you in front of me. Instead, sitting next to him and talking to him, holding his hand, leaning on his shoulder as you're talking to him, sitting on his lap, straddling him where he is in front of you, but you're on his lap. That's a little different, right? So he's in this position where he's also disarmed. He's also not looking at you as a threat. So do not stand over him. Don't let it be in a situation where like he's sitting on the couch and you're standing over him and you're telling him how annoyed you are about the fact that he never buys you anything on your birthday, right? You're sitting down with him if he's sitting down. Don't lean forward towards him. Like if you have a table, dinner table, and you're like leaning over and lunging at him, don't do that. Okay. Try to follow the other things and the other techniques. You can also do this while taking a walk. You're walking, you're striding, but you're side by side and you're talking. When you want to remain feminine in a conflict with your man, you're also going to remember your words. You're not going to use words that are going to hurt him. We do that when we feel like the person is not understanding us, the person is maybe insulting us, and so we feel like we need to insult them back. But in any conversation, it's so important to try to sandwich the information. And I'm sure you've heard this term a lot, this whole idea of sandwiching. So it means you're starting off with something positive. You're disarming him in a way where he is feeling very masculine and really good, right? And then you bring about the issue. And then you end it with another like positive, strong statement about him or about the relationship. So you can start off saying, honey, I love the fact that you take such good care of me. And even though you're so busy, you always find time to spend with me. But I feel like because you're so busy, sometimes some things are not being done and I don't think I'm able to do it. I think that you're a better fit for it, or I feel like you're the one that does this better than I do, or else I would. So I would really appreciate it if maybe you could find some time to like handle the trash situation outside, something like that, and say, I know that you're going to do it because you care so much about our home. And I know it's just been really busy for you. So thank you for taking time to listen to me, babe. So it's like you are saying it, but there's so much cushion around it. He still hears the message because that's what he's looking for anyway. He knows you got a problem, right? He's trying to find out what the problem is, but he wants to solve it. And you're not going to tell him what to do. So you're not going to say, so maybe you can take the trash out in the morning on your way to work. Don't give him that suggestion. Let him figure it out. And he will figure it out because now he knows you got a problem with the trash and he knows it's his responsibility. So you don't say, well, so because you're not taking it out, I'm just going to take out the trash. So you have totally taken away the power from him. You've totally taken away his ability to show you that he is a masculine man that you marry, that you love, that takes care of his home. Because you're saying you're going to take on his duty because he can't do it. That is demeaning. So you have to think about all of these things before you open your mouth. You need to think before you speak. So it's important to try to have some things that you're going to say ahead of time and be prepared for whatever reaction he's going to have. Don't say things that he told you in confidence or he shared with you in a moment of vulnerability to try to hurt him. If he says that his boss brought him in to talk to him because he feels like he doesn't complete tasks, don't say, you know, that's why you don't complete tasks at work, just like your boss told you. You do the same thing at home. You're not taking out the trash. Like, this is a problem everywhere for you. Can't you see that? Girl, you are asking for a breakup. Okay, don't do that. Don't use sarcasm. Men do not take well to that. And I think sarcasm is rude just in general. Don't use sarcasm. Do not curse at him. There is no room for profanity, and that is not feminine. And don't use aggressive body language. Don't point at him. Don't push him. Don't do anything you don't want being done to you. You don't get a right, because you're a woman, to do disrespectful things to men. That is unacceptable. So behave. Behave. If you want results, then you need to behave. That's the only way you're going to get them. Also, try to stay away from using words like always and never. You always do this, or you never. Just stay away from those words, those absolute words, because it's not true. And even if it is true, it doesn't feel good to hear, and it doesn't help the person to want to do it just because they never or they always, right? And don't do things like compare him to other men and compare his behavior to what other people are doing. It doesn't help, again, and it's disrespectful. They don't take well to that. They don't need to hear all the extra stuff. Keep it really short and concise, to the point, with a little cushioning at the beginning and at the end, but don't make it long-winded. Men do not like to have long-winded conversations about what they're not doing right. It's all bad for you. Keep it short, keep it cute. Just tell him what needs to be said and try to move on quickly from there. It's also important for you to know when to end the conversation. Some conversations just go on too long, and some conversations turn into arguments. It's a back and forth now. You are not getting anywhere. So learning how to bow out and say, okay, I think we've had enough, or I'm a little overwhelmed right now, so let's just finish this conversation another time. Whatever it is that you need to say. And like I said, I don't want this video to be like 2 hours, so I'm not going to go into all the scripts in terms of what you can say to him, but try to find some, or try to develop some on your own, of things that you can say to end the conversation. When the conversation's becoming disrespectful, if it's just drawing out too long, if he's not understanding what you're saying, and come back to it later. If your partner, your husband, is really doing a good job because he's listening to you, he's making changes, then I think it's also so appropriate and feminine for you to let him know this. Not at that time, but later on, maybe during the week, you can send him a message or write a note to him, or make him a really nice meal and just tell him, like, babe, I just want to say I really appreciate how you really listen to me when I have an issue and you always solve my problems. I love the fact that you're my man and that you do this for us. You know, give him a little boost and let him know that you appreciate the fact that he is communicating with you in a way that makes the relationship better, because communication is the hardest part of any relationship. And we are all human. We all have bad days. We all do things that we do wrong. And it's nice to be with someone who makes communication smoother and easier. So give him that compliment, give him your appreciation, give him your gratitude when he doesn't expect it. And lastly, I will add, when it comes to conflicts with your partner, not to have conflicts or any sort of confrontational conversations via text message or voice messaging. Keep those conversations in person. Arguing over text messages is so frustrating because you don't know the tone. You can leave things out. People are reading it in whatever voice they want to read it in. They have no idea how you're really saying it. They cannot hear your tone. So stay away from text message arguing and stay away from voice message arguing. You don't need to listen to a 30-minute voice note about what is not working. Have that conversation in person. Let the person see you, hear your tone, and feel that spiritual connection as you're conversing. Also, avoid the silent treatment. Avoid just making him feel like you are out of the conversation because you're ignoring him, because you are not doing the things that you normally do for him. If you normally make him breakfast, but because you're mad, you're not making him breakfast, you're not making him coffee, like he's on his own. Avoid that kind of behavior. It's mean and it's not feminine. It's not loving. It's not kind. It's not making any room for forgiveness. No one is 100% right all the time. And it's important for you to have that empathy and to also have space in your heart to forgive people who have done you wrong. Sometimes they're just wrong. Forgive them because God forgives you every single day and you are messing up 24/7, girl. Even if you think you aren't, you are. And God forgives you. And God also says that if you don't forgive people, He will not forgive you. And some of you are dealing with things in your body, in your life, because there's a block spiritually because you have not forgiven. You're stopping God from blessing you because you are in unforgiveness. So practice forgiving and accepting who He is as who He is, not trying to change Him, but getting your point across in a feminine and loving way. The next issue I'll talk about is the workplace and being feminine in the workplace. This is interesting because the workplace is a place where you are not really supposed to be in full feminine mode because you are working. So there is a level of assertiveness that's needed. There's goals and things that need to be done in a timely manner. And because it's work, and because usually work can be fast-paced or frustrating, or just the mere fact that money is involved and people's livelihoods are at stake, it can be stressful. And at work, people will do things that will rock you out of your natural nature, but you still want to present in a feminine way because that's who you are. You're a feminine woman. So when you're met with conflict at work, what do? This can be challenging, but the first thing that's important for you to think about is what is right and wrong in the situation? Is it the way they're saying it to you? Are they asking you to do something that's not really part of your job? And if so, then look into it. Make sure you know that indeed it is not part of your job, because sometimes it is part of your job and you didn't know. People at work sometimes can sort of look at you like a family member because you spend so much time there, then it kind of starts to feel like your second family. And sometimes people can say things to you thinking that you'll take it in a certain way and you don't take it the way they thought, or they're too intrusive. And now we have a problem. How do you deal with that conflict? Well, it's important that you approach it with grace and you're gentle. If you approach the person, you let them know exactly what you have an issue with in the same sort of way in terms of sandwiching. You're also going to be open with your body language. You're not going to come at them ready to fight them. You're not going to insult them. You're going to come to them with a hope of understanding and resolution. If you have a conflict at work where you believe that the person is just too unreasonable to listen to you, maybe you've tried and it didn't work out, then that's when you go to the next level, your boss or their boss. But usually they're going to ask you if you've talked to the person first. They're going to always want you to have done something before they intervene. And that's because they want the relational piece to always be intact in the workplace. They're always going to say, well, have you talked to them first? And if you say no, that's what they're going to recommend that you do. If the person is just completely outrageous and has a very bad reputation for being that way, then you may have some mediation where someone can sit down with the two of you. And in those situations, that is when it is so important for you to remain in your feminine, calm, relaxed, unbothered, unmoved, and straight to the point. Because when you act out, you become the problem. Even if the other person is wrong, because of how you're acting, you're seen as the one with the problem. You're not taking this seriously. They don't do as much to give you what you deserve. So you want to make sure that they don't have anything to say about you. Nothing.